Are you 100% behind what the president is doing in terms of tariffs?
Look, the president is going to announce, on April the 2nd, what that plan is. I think a lot of people are anticipating it. The president and his team have been listening to businesses and lawmakers along the way, and I believe that those lessons will be incorporated into the tariff proposal that he comes up with here in a couple days.
So you think that the tariff proposal will be beneficial to your constituents?
I'm optimistic that it will be because, look, this is, Joe, you talk about Cincinnati. I was down in Cincinnati with a manufacturer the other day who was saying to me, look, I love the idea that we're going to hold countries accountable who are not complying with the same OSHA regulations, wage regulations, EPA regulations, and that we're going to level the playing field, and they felt that the tariffs could help them do that.
Senator, one of the other big issues that's been put on the table is the potential that actually taxes on the wealthiest will go up. Is that something that you would ultimately support, in part to pay for some of the other efforts by the administration, for example, to remove taxes on tips and the like?
Look, we have to try to restore fiscal sanity, so there's going to have to be a balance between revenue enhancements and tax cuts. And I think that everything like that should be on the table because the base of the Republican Party are working-class Americans.
Right.
Working class
so
Americans
you would raise
need to be the
taxes
ones that
on
benefit
some.
most of this.
Just to be
I wouldn't
clear,
raise taxes on. I wouldn't raise taxes on anyone, but I would.
But that's what we're talking about: raising
sure
taxes on people.
No, well, not necessarily. If you it depends on what taxes you renew and what taxes you allow to go back to the previous law. But right now,
right. But if you go from 37% to 39.6%, I'm not suggesting you shouldn't. By the way, but I'm saying if you do,
we can argue semantics. We can argue semantics. I'll tell you where I am on the issue is that I'm for more of the benefits going to working class people. That's the base of the Republican Party. I want this to work for the Republican Party.
So you'd be prepared to raise taxes on some Americans?
Working class people are the ones that have to benefit from.
Right. I understand
the
why,
tax
but
proposal.
we're having an honest conversation. If you're prepared to benefit the working class Americans, which should be benefited, you're also saying to pay for that, just so we're all on the same page, they'd be prepared to raise taxes on some other Americans that are wealthier.
I mean, in some circumstances, if you're talking about the wealthiest Americans, I think the answer to that is that that they are, and I am willing to allow for some of those taxes to go up so that we can benefit working class Americans. Yes.
Yeah, that would be different than extending the Trump tax cuts.
Look, that's different. That's different. Well, that's what the president. Look, my position's no different than what the president has suggested recently. Right. He talked about these very issues,
possibly,
and I am aligned with the president on that.
We'll see whether that's obviously going to get a lot of backlash from different parts of the Republican Party to go from 37 back to 39.
If the president changes his mind, are you aligned with that too? Is this just whatever the president thinks is best at this point?
No, look, I am from a working class state. I'm from the state of Ohio, is the people who, make what makes America great. Right. And those are the people who we need to focus on. But let's also look in the context of the fact that America has an enormous national debt and a deficit, and we have to be realistic about this. I didn't come to the Senate to be unrealistic about what America's challenges are. I want to look out for working class folks first. I believe that they are the ones that are the heart and soul of the Republican Party in America, and they'll be my priority at the same time that we're looking at how we rationalize the spending that's gotten so out of control post-COVID.
Senator, how do you feel about the president openly talking about a third term in the context of either changing the Constitution itself or potentially in the context of putting forth I don't know if it would be a straw man, but, putting forth Vance to then give him the presidency later?
The president was responding to a question. He wasn't advocating for that. And we all know that you would have to change the Constitution.
We haven't hit 100 days
that would be highly unlikely.
You're not going to talk about this for 3 years and 9 months, are you?
We may.
You might. All right, Senator Houston, thank you. You remember, you like, I can't say the tribe anymore for Cleveland. You like the Reds or the What is it? The Guardians. The Guardians. Yeah, I don't even know the name.
The Guardians Reds World Series is my dream. There you go.
And then who would you want to win that? Never mind.
I have to say, I'm an Indians fan.
What? Okay, well, all right.
I just want to see what your reaction would be,
okay.
Joe.
All right, that's fine. All right, Senator, thanks, and I hope to see you again soon.
Mar-a-Lago all-face, bollocks and no substance. Or was that Botox and no substance? Troops gather around for the glitzy, the glamorous, the utterly superficial saga of Mar-a-Lago's finest. I'm being sarcastic. Pam Bondi and Kristi Noem. Here comes the dog killer. Welcome to the show where the stakes are low, but the Botox is high. Yes, Mar-a-Lago all-face. I think it's part of the administration. Let's start with Pam Bondi, the once and future queen of the courtroom, who's now, get this, spearheading a crackdown on those pesky, frivolous lawsuits against the government. Oh, really? She's not just stopping there. She's been appointed to clean up the DOJ. A place surely overwhelmed by all of those dangerous school board parents and pro-life activists. Deep state! Under her watch, we're promised a return to justice for all, as long as all doesn't include anyone opposing the administration. Yeah, democracy. Is that on hold? Is that on pause? Then there's Kristi Noem, the dog killer herself, puppy killer, South Dakota's gift to Homeland Security, who's been busy. She auditioned to bring back Lara Croft or something, deploying the National Guard to tackle the grave threats at the border, because nothing says home security like a good display of military might against civilians looking for a better life. Gotta be very careful, very topical. Noem's tenure promises to be as impactful as her previous policies, full of sound, fury, and signifying nothing but good old-fashioned political, let me dress up like she just wants to be Lara Croft. Something like that. Oh, cosplaying. That's what Miss Noem does. Together, these two are storming the swamp and covering it in Botox. Oh, wait, they're not draining it. They're throwing lavish parties in it. At the exclusive Mar-a-Lago Club, because that's where they go every weekend, where the only real threats are bad press and worse appetizers. Food's pretty bad there. Bondi and Noem shine as the bells of the ball. They're not just in office to serve, they're here to dazzle, distract, and deliver absolute nothing of substance, packaged together for Fox News. So what we can expect from this dynamic duo, because we've not seen anything worth seeing at the moment. More hard-hitting actions like sanctioning lawyers and terrorising the terrorised. Yeah, absolutely. Because in the world of Trumpian politics, if you're not making headlines, if you're not doing any level of distracting, you're not making waves, and let's be honest, when it comes to Bondi and Noem, just sounds so wrong, it's never about the policy, it's all about the publicity, wrapped up in Botox. So buckle up, folks. It's going to be a bumpy Botox ride filled with all the Mar-a-Lago all-face crew, where the only thing real is the silicone and the only genuine articles are the designer dresses. They're fake? Okay. In that reality show, the only thing you can trust is that nothing is as shallow as it seems. It's always shallower. But remember, in the race to the bottom, Bondi and Noem aren't just participants, they're leading the pack. Because when it comes to politics at Mar-a-Lago, it's not about how low you can go, it's about how low you can stoop and still wear Louboutins or something like that. Welcome to Bollocks and No Substance.
Florida Congressman Byron Donalds has officially kicked off his campaign to become the Sunshine State's next governor, and he's already scored President Trump's coveted endorsement. Congressman Donalds joins us now. Welcome back.
Good to be back with you. Good morning, Shannon.
Okay, I want to get to your race, but first, these two House races in Florida this week, closer than Republicans would like them to be. In the race to fill Mike Waltz's open seat, Florida Politics says this: polls show that the special election is within the margin of error. Wall Street Journal is reporting that Democrats say you are in full-blown panic mode, meaning Republicans. Why is that race so close?
Well, look, special elections are always different. Democrats obviously are highly motivated because they took a shellacking last November. They don't like DOJ. They don't like that Donald Trump is making America great again. And so they're going to the polls. As long as Republicans turn out in Congressional District 6 in Florida, which, by the way, the voting reports from the last couple days show that Republican votes are surging in that congressional district. But as long as Republican voters get to the polls and vote, they're going to be just fine. And I'll be remiss if I don't add the Supreme Court race going on in Wisconsin. Same dynamic. Democrat voters, because of their dramatic losses last November, they're motivated. Republican voters, we have to get to the polls. We got to show up and vote in Wisconsin for the Supreme Court race. And in Florida, Congressional District 6, Congressional District 1, Republican voters have to turn out. They got to show up. Election Day's Tuesday. And if you want Donald Trump to be successful in his mission to make America great again, Republicans have to continue to go to the polls.
Yeah, we've got one of the judges in that Wisconsin race coming up in just a little bit in the show to look at that as well. Part of this week, the concern about what's going on in the House and the makeup there, and we've got a chart to put up for folks just to see how close this is. There are 4 seats that are empty for various reasons, but otherwise the GOP can't afford to lose anyone.
You are, of course, a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Do you think it was appropriate for President Trump's national security team to be discussing an imminent military strike on Signal, which is a commercial app?
Well, what this showed was an open conversation that was happening, and I think it was a very thoughtful conversation, but there was no war plans that the Atlantic put out. What they did is they had a very successful attack against the Houthis. It's a terrorist organization that had been harassing our Navy since 2023. They had attacked our Navy 174 times, and the Biden administration did nothing but sit on their hands. What the Trump administration did was take the fight directly to the Houthis. So what the conversation should be is, why didn't the Biden administration do something in the last 2 years instead of us being focused on this Signal chat, which there was no classified information given out. The conversation was a thoughtful conversation, and the attack was extremely successful.
You take me to my next question. You say there was nothing classified. I'm going to show some of what Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth did text out. Here's a little sample. 12:15 Eastern Time. F-18s launch first strike package. 14:15. Strike drones on target. This is when the first bombs will definitely drop, pending earlier trigger-based targets. 15:36. F-18 second strike starts. Also, first sea-based Tomahawks launched. Those are specific times and weapons. And later, there's a discussion about target details. Senator, if that's not classified information, what is?
Tell me where the location was at. What part of the region was it at? What part of the world was this at? We have a lot of conflicts, a lot of issues going on around the world, from Africa to anywhere in the Middle East to even in Asia or possibly through Europe. This could have been going on any place in the world. There was no specific information except that a target was going to be hit. We have terrorist organizations coming after the United States everywhere because the Biden administration has done nothing for 4 years. Instead of having peace through strength like President Trump is leading, they try to do it appeasement, and what happened is these rogue regimes and terrorist organizations have taken advantage of it. What happened here is President Trump took the fight to our enemies, which should have happened a long time before. What is wrong with the conversation that is going place? In fact, why are we focused so much on this? Why didn't we focus on the 13 service members that was killed in Afghanistan? There was no outcry or anybody resigning from there. What about the idea that when Secretary Austin went MIA for a surgery and went completely offline? No one was talking about him resigning, but the left has completely lost their mind over a good conversation, and that was an absolute successful mission. And they can't let it go because President Trump is leading the world again.
Senator, what's your message to service members and their family who may feel like officials in this chain were careless with information that could have put their loved ones' lives at risk?
I think the numbers speak for themselves. We've had record numbers of new recruits coming in the service since President Trump has taken office. The morale is through the roof because people are finally saying President Trump has taken the fight to our enemies rather than sitting back and apologizing and focus more on DEI than actual lethality, which is what our service members want to do. They want to sign up for what they did, protect American rights, and go after those enemies that want to come and harm Americans.
Do you think he was telling you the truth?
I don't buy that they were as ignorant or forgetting of the details of this exchange as they claimed. This put U.S. military personnel at risk.
So Pete Hegseth has defended his handling of this and said that he knows what he's doing here and that there was no classified information exchanged in this. What do you say to him?
He's reckless. He's unqualified. He should have resigned yesterday. No military officer would survive this. Any military officer who so recklessly handled or inadvertently disclosed this kind of information would lose their job, their security clearance, and possibly face a court-martial, and he should resign.
Last week, you had a big rally for your re-election campaign. As part of this, you said that Trump is trying to poison democracy. You're the only incumbent Senate Democrat who's running for re-election in a state that Trump won. Why make that a focus, given the Republican tilt in Georgia?
Well, because it's true, and because it's urgent, and it requires us to push back. I don't think at any time in American history we have seen a president use fear and intimidation in the way that Donald Trump does. And I have never seen opposition energy like this. From dyed-in-the-wool Democrats to moderate Republicans, there is outrage. He's going after his enemies. He's talking about invading Greenland. He's doing nothing for families in Georgia. And if you look at special election results just in the last 48 to 72 hours, the energy in opposition, I believe, is building toward a landslide victory in 2026.
For Democrats, is there a risk of turning off swing voters by going after Trump so aggressively?
I think the president is turning off swing voters by acting so recklessly, by abusing his power. Nothing this administration is pursuing addresses the daily concerns of my constituents. My constituents are concerned about health care. They're concerned about child care. They're concerned about the cost of housing. What does invading Greenland and going after your political opponents have to do with anything that matters to ordinary people?
Why do you think the Democrats are having such a hard time connecting with voters?
Well, look, at our rally in Atlanta, we had thousands of people come from across the political spectrum to express their outrage and opposition at what this administration is doing right now. And that, I believe, is where the energy is. I think that there is disappointment, of course, about the defeat in November. That's in the past. Now we're moving forward.
Do you still support Schumer as the Democratic leader here?
I do.
You may run against the Georgia governor, Brian Kemp. What do you think about his chances as a Senate candidate?
We will see who runs. It may be the governor. President Trump has said that he would back Marjorie Taylor Greene to run for United States Senate. I don't think that she's got the guts to do it, but she would be a disaster in the United States Senate.
What about Kemp?
Well, I'll be ready for any opponent.
Let's go back to what your previous guest, Mr. Navarro, was talking about. $100 billion they're going to collect from auto buyers. $600 billion from the other tariffs. That is a tax. That money doesn't come falling out of the sky. That money comes because these products will go up, Americans will pay more. The idea that they hired this president to bring down costs, and you've got the market crashing because they think the tariffs are stupid. Selective tariffs, absolutely. Across the board, we're talking $700 billion tax. The American people get it. Your own survey pointed that out. And curious thing about Navarro was he went talking about tariffs in the first Trump administration. He should have looked a little bit more at history. I think they were called the Smoot-Hawley tariffs in the 1920s. That policy led to the Depression. Now, God willing, what Trump's doing is not going to lead the same place, but it insults the intelligence of the American people when he's saying the government's going to collect $700 billion a year, and somehow that's not going to show up.
Well,
as
what
a
about
tax.
the idea?